I'm driving this out of passion. Like this is what I love. I've been doing this my whole life. I wouldn't have it any other way. Like go back, 15, 16, 17 years, I'd probably still do it all again, to be honest. Like no doubts about it.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Transferring skills acquired in fine dining kitchens can have its challenges on pushing boundaries while showing restraint. So how do you do it and deliver an exceptional dining experience free from the trappings of top-level hospitality? Elias Salomonsson is the executive chef and general manager at Circl in Melbourne. Elias, how are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
That's awesome to get you on the show. You're doing some exciting things there over the last year and a half since opening, but how are things in Melbourne?
At the moment it's very hot. We're going through that little bit of a heat wave. Not ideal, but it is what it is. It gets hot in the kitchen, but if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen, so they say. But it's good. We just came back from a 2-week little break over the 2 first weeks of January. So we're just settling in for the year and planning our year ahead. A lot of fun events and stuff like that happening. So it's good.
Yeah, awesome. Melbourne's been a bit interesting since that COVID period and rebuilding the hospitality sector in the city of Melbourne. But what's it been like for you as a new business in the last year and a half? Has it been challenges, or do you think that there's real optimism there and opportunity?
Look, I think because I've been in Australia now for about 10 to 12 years, right? So I was here for the whole COVID debacle. It is moving in the right direction, but we're still not where we were pre-COVID, right? So like there's still miles to go, but we are slowly getting there. It's getting better and better every year. Like something as simple as Christmas function bookings, right? Like back in the day, beginning of November until end of December was nonstop. Everything was happening, But by currently, we're basically seeing, it's the December month that's busy and nothing really happens. Like nothing special happens in November. So we're still gaining momentum. Like we're still working on it, but we are slowly moving in the right direction.
You're in a pretty busy role there as exec chef and general manager. Tell us about your day to day. Like how are you going running the restaurant?
Look, every day is different. As you know, hospitality throws its curveball, like all of a sudden a fridge breaks down or, something or other. But it's usually pretty good. I come in the morning, I open up the restaurant. I'm the first one in, so I can have a bit of peace and quiet before all the chefs come in and start making a lot of noise. Answer all my emails, get all the events inquiry, everything out of the way, pack away deliveries, set up the week for success, so to speak. Like today is my first day back after my weekend. And then it's pretty much, your day-to-day stuff, you know what I mean? Like I do have a lot of meetings, so I'm in and out of the kitchen, jumping around, filleting fish here, and then into a budget meeting, so it never really stops.
Tell us a little bit about the restaurant and what you're doing there.
Look, so we're about a 60-seat restaurant, depending a little bit on table configuration. We focus mostly on a la carte dining, but we do offer a degustation style menu as well. The whole concept of Circl is making the world of food and fine wine more accessible, right? So for me, in terms of the food program, it is about sourcing the best quality produce I can get, but having it as a more affordable price as I can. So for instance, for my Wagyu, I love Blackmore Wagyu. I have a great relationship with them. I've known Ben for 10 years. But instead of using your strip loin or your ribeye, I tend to use underutilized cuts. So I use tri-tip, roast beef, chuck tail, so it's as good as some of the prime cuts, but it's just at a more reasonable price. So I don't have to charge, $250, $350 for a steak. Similar for the wine program, right? Like we have 200 wines by the glass. We offer different pour size, so everything from 50 mils to 125 mils. We open, super rare wines by the glass, your DRCs, Cocherie, Dovizat, Ravenel, you name it. We open everything by the glass. And it's just to make it a little bit more accessible because, a lot of the time you go to a restaurant, you see these amazing bottles, but you don't really want to break the budget to get it. But here you can actually come and you can actually sample these bottles. It's not cheap, right? Some of them, but it is the hard to get wines.
Yeah, we're going to dive into your amazing career, particularly in the fine dining space shortly. But what's it like sort of straddling that and trying to sort of casualize it without losing its essence? Is it a challenge, creativity speaking, like to casualize it but still maintain the highest level that you can?
Like when people ask me similar questions before, I always said that we're trying to take, like all the good things about fine dining, right? And just simplify a little bit. Because we don't want it to be a restaurant where you're here, where you have to be here for 3.5 to 4 hours to have dinner. Like we're still very much relaxed on that side. Like even for our degustation menu, like most people are done within, an hour and 45 minutes. So it doesn't take that long because we want it to be at a steady pace so that people feel like, even if they have a theater show to go to or a music concert or whatever it might be, they still have time to get the full experience, so to speak.
Yeah, amazing. I want to dive into a little bit more about the restaurant and particularly your food and a few dishes in a little while. But take us back to when you were young. Whereabouts did you grow up and what sort of role did food play for you?
Yeah, so I'm from the very, very south of Sweden, from a city called Malmo. So it's the third biggest city in Sweden. Like it's always going to be home for me, right? Like that's where I'm from. But I always say that the best thing about Malmo is that you're about half an hour away from Copenhagen. Like that's I say that all the time, and I stick by it. Like it's the best thing about Malmo is that you're so close to Copenhagen. Um, like growing up, food was always a big thing for me. Like I've always loved food. I've never been a picky eater. There's about 3 things that I hate to eat, and that's licorice, marzipan, and almond paste. That gets used a lot in Sweden. Can't stand it. Won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Especially licorice. Like it's such a big thing in Sweden. Oh, gross. And like in Sweden, there's salted licorice, sour licorice, sweet licorice. Oh, my whole family loves it except for me. I'm like the black sheep, so to speak. Can't stand it. But yeah, growing up with food, my grandma was probably my first like big influence. I spent a lot of time there when I was a kid, like after kindergarten and after preschool and stuff like that. They kind of like looked after me and my sister a lot. My grandma was an amazing cook. Like she cooked everything from scratch. So I used to help out in the kitchen, pickling herring and, doing all the bits and bobs that she loved to do. And she was from that generation where there was zero waste, like every single thing got used, and that was quite influential on me. So like I tried to do the same, right? Like where you can, like instead of wasting a product, you just try to find a solution for it. Be it you making stocks, oils with skins and bones, whatever it is, right? You try to use as much as possible.
Yeah. Is there any sort of standout dishes from your youth that you look back on fondly that you can share with us that are from the region you're from?
Yeah, look, there's when the new season potato comes through, like one of the most traditional dishes that I grew up eating a lot was poached halibut, new potatoes, clarified butter, and an absolute insane of horseradish, like just horseradish until your eyes started crying. That's very, very traditional where I'm from. Um, and I hate to say it, right? Like Swedish meatballs, like yeah, we eat that a lot. It's not a made up thing. Like we eat plenty of meatballs growing up. It's just how it is, right? People always like, oh, you eat Swedish meatballs? Like, yeah, we actually do, right? Like we're not making this stuff up. What else? What else? What else? A lot of like where I grew up, like we ate a lot of seafood. A lot of prawns, right? Like we had a lot of crayfish. So in the end of summer is crayfish season in Sweden, which basically means you throw a crayfish party. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You sit at a long table, usually outside in the end of summer. You have a massive pot of crayfish. Then everybody just sits around with your stupid little bibs and your little funny hats and stuff, peeling crayfish, drinking schnapps, drinking beer. Great times.
That sounds amazing. I'm going to get a little bit self-indulgent here and just go back to the Swedish meatballs. Tell us how you would make them and what's so special about them.
For me, there's 2 things that has to be on a plate of Swedish meatballs. Like I'm not counting the actual meatballs, like they're just a given, right? But it has to be lingonberry jam. Like sometimes it's not jam. Sometimes it's just like you get the raw berries and just mixing in with some sugar, and you just have them like raw. But you have to have lingonberries on there. Like it's just an absolute must. Because if you don't have lingonberries, it is not the same. The other thing, which is also very important to me, is we do like our version of like a pickled cucumber. We call it pressed cucumber. So slice it really nice and thin, a little bit of salt and sugar, put weight on it to press all the water out, and then just lightly let it sit in a pickling liquid. And then loads of fresh herbs, like loads of dill, obviously, because we're Swedish, there's dill everywhere. But those things has to be on the plate. If I don't see that on the plate, it's not real Swedish meatballs. Cannot change my mind.
That's amazing. That sounds so good. When did you first start sort of getting interested and consider a life in food?
Like I said, I've always been interested in food, and like I used to cook a lot even growing up. Like we didn't have as many like set family times because everybody was working on different schedules because we were playing different sports and work and everything like that. So we tend to eat like at different times, the whole family. So everybody kind of made their own thing, and on set days we used to have dinners, but like throughout the week when everybody had a different schedule, everybody cooked their own dinner. I cooked a lot of pasta. Like it's still the biggest passion in my heart to this day is cooking good pasta. Like you just can't beat it. It's so wholesome, so good. Um, and that's probably where it really kicked off. Like being around food with my grandma, and then my whole family is quite food oriented. Every time there's a family gathering, you can bet your ass that there's going to be a metric load of food. I'm trying to keep the curse words within me. Trying to be on best behaviors. And that's pretty much where it started. I'll try not to, My mom will see this. She'll get very upset if I curse.
Tell us about the first sort of couple of years in the industry. Were there any venues or people that had a big influence on you early on?
Look, so the school system a little bit different in Sweden. So it's pretty much after you finish upper secondary school or like high school type of thing, you then get to decide if you want to go towards the working profession. So you still have all your base subjects and everything like that, but 75% of your course would be towards the culinary arts or construction or whatever it might be, right? I've never really liked school. Like it was never my thing, you know what I mean? Like I just kind of cruised by and, got the grades that I needed type of thing. But I've always knew that like, working in whatever, like, with my hands, doing something was always for me. So I applied for culinary school and got in and never really looked back after that. I was working throughout school as well. I was working in a small restaurant in Copenhagen. I was, 16 years old. Like there was nothing special, you know what I mean? But it was a good place to just learn the basics and teach me that this is not an easy job. You know what I mean? Like this is hard yakka, so to speak. And after that, when I was still part of my school, I got the opportunity to go to Ireland as part of my apprenticeship. And I worked at Adair Manor, which is a 5-star hotel just outside of Limerick, with a fine dining restaurant in the hotel as well. And that's where I learned an incredible amount. Like that's probably, like I have to thank the head chef and the head pastry chef there to really teach me the basics, because that was, like it was a busy kitchen, a lot of events, a lot of everything, right? Like I worked through all the sections. I did, pastry production, worked the sauce section and everything like that. And they just wanted to teach as much as they could in the period of time I was there. That definitely happened. I can tell you that. It was one of those kitchens, if you didn't learn, you might get a little slap at the back of the head, to say the least. After I then graduated, they offered me to come back. So, by the time I finished school, I already had a job lined up and I moved to Ireland. So I haven't lived in Sweden since I was 18.
Wow. Well, what was life like for you in Ireland compared to what you were used to in Sweden?
Look, very, very different. Like I'm a city boy, right? Like I grew up in the city my whole life. When I lived in Ireland, I lived in an extremely small village. There was one main road that went through the village, but there was 5 pubs along that main road. So there was definitely entertainment to be had. And then it was just wildly different, like it's the same as moving to the UK, like even Australia is very different from Sweden. I think Australia is more similar than what Ireland was, right? There's more similarities, it's more international. Where I think is Ireland it's just in its own place. Like I loved Ireland, but the weather is not as good as Australia, I have to say.
When it was time to sort of leave Ireland, how much had you changed, and especially as a chef, like how did you feel as a chef, and what sort of skills and had you acquired by then?
Yeah, look, I think because it was like it was a tough kitchen to grow up in, so to speak, right? Like it wasn't easy by any means, right? But I probably wouldn't have it any other way because the amount of information and knowledge that I picked up with me has served me for the rest of my career. You know what I mean? Like it set me up for success in such a way that, I could step in any kitchen, right? Like, and just really like know that as long as I work my butt off, right? Like I can definitely pull my weight and be, beneficial to the team that I'm working with. And I've always wanted to learn, right? Like I think that if you become like a sponge, right? You just absorb as much information as you possibly can. It will just help you in the long run. You know what I mean? Everybody works in different ways. Everybody operates in different ways. So the more time you spend with different people, you get their point of view. You're like, oh, I do certain sauces this way, and like you just learn things. And even now, like like I've been working as a chef for 16 years. Like doesn't mean you stop learning. You know what I mean? There's always people that know stuff that you don't, and you just need to be willing to absorb as much knowledge as you possibly can.
How did you end up in Australia?
Yeah, so I was living in Ireland, skipping along the green pastures as best as I could, and the hotel I was working at was getting bought up, and they were going to renovate for about 2 years. So I just decided, look, this is the perfect time to travel around for a bit. So I'm like, I've always wanted to go to Australia ever since I was a little kid. Jumped on a plane, came over, still haven't left. I'm here. 12 years later, I'm still here. It's as simple as that. Like it sounds ridiculous, but
what was the fascination in Australia, and how different is it when you first got here? Were you surprised what it was like here?
When I first got here, it was like the biggest surprise is how very relaxed everything was. Everybody's everybody was very laid back compared to, living in Europe and Sweden, where it's always hustling and bustling to go somewhere. You know what I mean? It was very different. I like as soon as I arrived in Australia, I just fell in love with the country. Like I arrived in January and it was like a scorcher day. Like it was like 40 degrees. I came from Ireland. I was, white as my chef jacket. Like it was absolutely ridiculous. Took me about half an hour to get absolutely red like a tomato. But then like the first thing we did, an Irish mate of mine who was living in Ireland, he picked me up from the airport and we went out to get a cup of coffee and just have some breakfast because I arrived pretty early in the morning. And it was just like a random little cafe where my mate knew the owner, and it was just fantastic food, great coffee. And I kind of asked, like, is this where what everything is like? And he's like, yeah, pretty much. And I'm like, all right, I see what you're putting up here, Australia. I like it. And after that, the longer I stayed and the more I worked and the more I experienced, the more like I just didn't want to leave the country. Like I just realized that this is a country where I can really like make myself at home,
Well, you really made a name for yourself over more than a decade, as you sort of said earlier on in Australia. And tell us about your career in Australia. Where's the sort of really important venues and people that have allowed you to flourish in Australia?
Yeah. So I worked for quite some time with the Videmont Group. So I worked about 6.5 years with that group, working across multiple venues, upstairs at Videmont with the events team at Bistroville, Ikijimi, like you name it, I've done it. The reason I wanted to work there was because like even back then, like it's always been an institution, right? You know what I mean? Like it's where where you want to go if you want to learn. But it was also a group that offered more than just the one venue. There was multiple different venues. There was multiple different opportunities for me to learn and pick up as much knowledge as possible. So that was the biggest like attraction to me. So once I started, like it was really, really good. Like I learned so much working under Shannon and all the amazing exec chefs that was there. Chris Brunello and Justin James and you name it. Like it was so beneficial for my career. Like the amount of knowledge that I could pick up and just really run with and just make it my own is exactly what any young chef should aspire to do. After that, I worked with the Scott Pickey Group for about 3 years. Same thing there. Like I was in a executive sous chef role, so I oversee multiple restaurants. And the exec chef there, Stuart McVeigh, absolutely fantastic. Like one of the best chefs I've ever worked for. And like same thing there, like just the amount of knowledge that I could pick up from there and really, like understand more than just running a kitchen, but running a whole business as from scratch, right? Like that's the information that I really wanted to learn, really wanted to pick up. And like everybody was so helpful to actually teach you the things that you were missing, and actually really like spend time and effort to show you like, well, this is how things are run. You know what I mean? And you can actually understand it from the beginning.
I know you've got a great love for seafood, but you're also exploring Australian ingredients as well. What's the journey been like for you, learning new ingredients and how to use them? Tell us about what that's been like for you over the last decade.
Well, that's probably the most fun that you get to do, right? Like, is playing around with new things. Working with like Australian natives is so much fun, especially the citrus. I love all the native Australian citrus. Like, I still use so much to it to this day, because I always feel like we're not like a native Australian restaurant. Like, that's not what we're trying to be. But we are in Australia. All these amazing produce around us, so it makes sense to use as much as you can, because like we still want to represent who we are, right? So even though we're Scandinavian leaning and European leaning, but we're in Australia, so I'm going to use as much Australian produce that I can. Even like even with the different types of seafood that you can get here, like it's very different from what you get from Europe. I still miss some of the halibuts and the monkfish and stuff like that. Like it's hard to beat, but when you get stuff like coral trout from Great Barrier Reef and stuff like that, like it's still pretty good. Like you can't really complain with that.
Tell us a little bit about your food. Is there a couple of dishes that you can tell us about that sort of exemplifies what you're doing there at Circl?
Look, I think like some of the dishes that we have on the menu with like your signature dishes or whatever you want to call it. Like I think that everybody who comes to Circl needs to try them at least once, because they are really like, in a nutshell, who Circl is as a restaurant and what we're trying to be. But our menu evolves all the time, right? Like it's depending on what's coming through from the veggie suppliers or what the fisherman is catching, or you name it. So there's a lot of variables to our menu. Some stuff like we'll probably always have Blackmore Wagyu on the menu. We're always going to have a duck dish on the menu and a calamari dish on the menu, because there are staples, right? We might change the garnishes and change it around a little bit, but like you'll always find like those style of dishes, because I think it's important to create a restaurant persona, so to speak, of who you are, so that people know that, oh, let's go to Circl. We know that we can get an amazing duck there, or it's always going to be something really good of that specific caliber. You know what I mean? So that's something that I try to really implement across the restaurant as a whole, that like, we want to be known for being a great restaurant, great wine list, great service, great food. But like, you need to be known for certain things, because like if you're just overall known, that's great, you know what I mean? But it's like, oh, I really want a duck today. Where should I go? You should go to Circl to try the duck there. That's what we want to be known as.
You've spent your career in kitchens and running them as well, and now you're also in the role of general manager. How has the sort of dual role changed your perception of how to run a venue as a whole? Hasn't it had an impact on you?
Yeah, look, definitely. Like my my admin workload has definitely gone up, but like I've always been surrounded by it. Like it's not like it took me by a complete shock, because I've worked in group roles where I've oversaw multiple things and not just the one restaurant and the one kitchen. So it's not like a complete shock to me. Like this is something that I've been training for, so to speak, for quite some time. And after a while, like you pick up the ropes pretty quick. Like it doesn't take you by a complete surprise when you start doing it, because most of the stuff you've already been doing, but just from a kitchen point of view. So then you just have to add on the front of house side and the wine side as well. But with that, like it's still, for me, it's the most important thing is surrounding yourself with great people. Because with like, you're not a one-man army, right? Like you have to surround yourself with great people that have the same passion and the same drive as yourself. And that's just going to set yourself up for success. So, I mean, like, I think that's like the team is what makes a restaurant. Like it's not one person that makes a restaurant. It's everybody who's involved in the restaurant, going back to, whoever does finance and everything like that. Because without that, like, if you don't have a great finance system set up, you're going to put yourself into trouble. You need to have a great kitchen porter. You need to have a great front of house manager. Everybody is important within the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any advice on how to get the best out of your team so that everyone is in that sort of on the same boat? Like, how do you approach it?
Well, I think it's, for me, it's about setting standards and, like being very clear with this is my expectations, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not going to lower my expectations, right? Like, this is what we're aiming towards every single day. And it's being extremely clear with that, like when people come on board, you know what I mean? Like, obviously it takes people the time to adjust to different systems and everything like that, right? But people just need to be very aware, like, we're aiming to be at this level all day, every day. Like, that's never going to change. Like once we reach that level, well, then we increase it a little bit because we always want to improve. We always want to become better, because I don't want to be like a stagnant restaurant where we're just like, yeah, this is where we're at. We're happy. Well, no, there's always things to improve on in a restaurant. Doesn't matter what restaurant you're in the world. Like, you can always be the 1%ers to improve on. And that's something that I'm very keen on, right? Like, I want to improve as much as I possibly can in every way, shape or form.
You've built an amazing foundation there over the last year and a half. Where do you see the restaurant going in the next sort of 2 years? Do you have some goals in mind?
Yeah, look, I definitely have some goals in mind. Like, we have some plans that are going to be announced pretty shortly. I'm not going to mention too much about it because it's coming out very shortly. But yeah, look, for this year, like we're basically building up for the next 18 months, like what the next 18 months are going to look like in terms of in-house events, collaborations, and just growing Circl as a brand. Implementing more systems to our wine program. Like, we basically opened with a bang. There was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of information to get out to the media. Like, this is Circl, this is who we are. Well, now we're fine tuning that message so that people across the full board, be it first time guests or people that have been here 10 times, still has an amazing experience every time they come. Like, for me, the biggest thing about what we're doing is creating memorable experience. Like, because without that, you know what I mean? Like, you want people to like leave and just like, oh, yeah, that was a good meal, or like that wine was such a banger, right? Like, that's what we want across the board for everything that we do.
Well, tell us about the impact that it's had on you personally. You've said that you always wanted to come here and you love being here, and it doesn't sound like you're going to leave anytime soon either. It sounds like you love it there in Melbourne. How much have you changed in this time living in Australia and running kitchens?
Look, this is huge. Like, you can't really, I don't think you can really quantify it, right? Like, I've been here, I think this is my 12th year in Australia, which is insane, right? Like, so like most of my adult life has been in Australia, growing up in kitchens here and, doing different things, right? Like, so like Australia is really everything to me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm here to stay. I got my citizenship. I just got engaged. I'm getting married next year, right? Like, it's the whole kit and caboodle for me. So it doesn't stop.
That's incredible. It's really amazing what you're doing there, and very exciting. Everyone's sort of talking about it. But what do you love about what you do?
Look, for me, the biggest thing for me personally is that I've worked for big restaurant groups, Vidamond and et cetera, where there was always, an executive chef or chef owner and stuff like that on top of me. Well, for me, like, this is mine to run. Like, I don't own this. Like, I don't have like personal stakes in this. But I run this as it would be my own business. And I think that's really important, because if you do that, like, well, I'm driving it exactly the way I would drive my own business. Like, I'm putting the effort in, the hours, because I want this to be as successful as it possibly can be, right? Like, I'm driving this out of passion. Like, this is what I love. I've been doing this my whole life. I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, go back, 15, 16, 17 years, I'd probably still do it all again, to be honest. Like, no doubts about it.
Well, very excited to hear what you have in store over the next 18 months. We'll have to keep our ears wide open to hear all about that. But we've loved having you on Deep in the Weeds today. Look forward to catching up again. So please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
Thank you very much, Huck. I appreciate it.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Stay safe and be well.